Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. Erik ten Hag plays a power play with the Manchester United board, and God, can he do that? He is the man in control. Loan exits expected to be the key thing that happens in the next few days for Manchester United, but there is still a demand from Erik ten Hag to do some business on the way in as well. We'll also be talking about an astounding Manchester United stat this season that is not only relevant to the Premier League, but is also relevant to Europe and sits down a lot of people who are criticising something I don't think they should be criticising. I think I know what you know what I'm talking about there. Also, Di Marzio from Italy has given us a bit of an update on Osimhen as well, and lots of other things that you might want to talk about as well. So loads to get into on the show tonight. It's Thursday night. It's always been the unofficial start of the weekend. Thursday night, I used to live in Dublin, worked in an office just off Merrion Row. It was like the office, you know, David Brent, like that. Thursday afternoon after my lunch always would be, this is where the weekend starts. Some people wouldn't enjoy it. I'd be up and down dancing like, you know, Tina Turner. It's the weekend and we're getting ready for it. Let's go. There is a red light in the background. It's a duck, but it's not a red light district. I don't believe in that, monetization of women or men. Let's get down to business, says Tobias. Let's get down to business. So what are we talking off from the off here? Can I just say at the very start as well, I said on the show this morning, United Stand, we're in Manchester now, we've got a studio, we're looking to grow out everything over the next year or two, and we want people to get involved who can offer something to us. Loads of you sent in CVs and stuff today. We've got loads to go through. If you want to do that and you missed the show this morning, that's footballmedia@gmail.com. Send us your CV in with the skills that you've got that you think can help us. You could be in the profession, you could be in the business, you could be coming out of uni, you could be in Manchester. Basically, you need to be in Manchester because that's where we're expanding. But thanks everyone who sent them in so far. Anyway, let's hit the show right with the headline that we've got. Erik ten Hag wants the United board to be ready if there is an opportunity in the winter market to sign a player before the transfer deadline. That's coming in from Fabrizio Romano. Now, this is a development on what we were talking about this morning, because as I said this morning, this is great that Fabrizio is saying this, because we had this as a headline this morning that Manchester United are expected to bring somebody in over the next few days. No one's got a bloody clue what it is. And I think this gives clarity to that from Fabrizio, really, that Erik ten Hag is basically demanding that the board are in a position to be ready to pounce on an opportunity when it arises in the next 4 or 5 days. Jake Norton, welcome to the Members Club. And I think it really emphasises the power that Erik ten Hag has. I read that and I thought, well, I'm going to talk about it on the show tonight anyway, amongst a few other things I want to talk about. But I think that it's abundantly clear, isn't it, that Erik ten Hag has that Manchester United squad in his fist. You know, there's no leakage. It's a tight sealed fist and nobody's getting out. Last year there was cracks all over the place. Ronaldo, Maguire, all sorts of people apparently leaking stuff out, Lingard, etc. There was all sorts of stuff going on. This year, nothing. Maguire hardly plays, nothing comes out. Lindelof hardly plays, nothing comes out. You know, and I'm not saying they were the leaks last year, far from it, but there are no leaks. He's got total control of that team. Rotation, people being dropped, people being rested, people starting. There is, he's got total and utter control of that playing staff. And that's an immense achievement in such a short period of time. But what people probably don't realise is that statement there from Fabrizio's update today is true. Erik ten Hag is in a position, welcome to the Members Club, Brad. Erik ten Hag is in a position where he can, basically sit in a press conference and indirectly say to the board, I want a signing in the next few days, and if I don't get one, everyone's going to know it's you did it. He's in that position. He's earned that power in such a short period of time. This is why United always liked having Solskjaer, because Solskjaer, remember when them fans broke into Carrington and protested and Ollie came out and there was that rumour that he'd said that the Glazers were good guys? I don't know whether that was true or not, but you certainly got the impression that Solskjaer towed the party line. He did. He did toe the party line. He was very grateful to get that job. I remember saying for a long time through Ollie's time in charge, it was very difficult for me, and I'm sure it was very difficult for anybody else, because of what he'd achieved as a legend of the club. It was very difficult to, criticise him, and therefore he shielded the Glazers. And they were very clever about that, and Solskjaer played his role in that because he's a nice guy. We don't have that anymore. I think the ideal for the Glazers and Woodward was always to have a Solskjaer in place that protects them. Well, Ten Hag doesn't protect this board. Ten Hag exposes this board because he's achieved so much publicly and on the pitch. And everybody knows, and he knows, that we do need to add to this squad. He's mentioned investment and players 2 or 3 times in this January transfer window already. He's not here to protect that board, because protecting that board doesn't protect him in the long term. He'll have seen Mourinho, Van Gaal, Solskjaer protect that board in different ways and ultimately lose their job. He's an intelligent guy, and he's obsessed with winning. I don't think he talks about signings because he's learnt mistakes from what Mourinho and Solskjaer did with this board. I think he's obsessed with winning, and he knows to win, he has to compete. And he, in some ways, it's a bit like what Rangnick was like. They're not here to just get sacked in 2 or 3 years and get a payoff. They're here to not waste a minute of their footballing lives. They're here to win. And to do that, you have to put it out there what you want to do. And I think that's what Ten Hag's doing. And because the team's responded to that and the fans have responded to that, he's in a very powerful position where you can get updates like we had this morning and what Fabrizio said today. The manager is quite blatantly wants Man United to bring players in. So we all look to the board and go, are you going to do anything then? Are they going to do anything? He has the power. I don't want to be sensationalist here, but I suppose I am going to be. He's the most powerful manager we've had at Man United since Sir Alex Ferguson. He's more powerful than Mourinho. Mourinho won the Europa League and he won the Carabao Cup, and Mourinho's CV's better, and Mourinho's a fantastic manager, but Mourinho never had control of the squad and the club like Ten Hag has. He's built things around him that have made him very powerful. He is very powerful at that football club at this moment in time. And I'll tell you what, I'll put a cherry on that cake. I think if this board had backed Ten Hag with another 50 to 100 million pounds in January, and that's not unrealistic when you look at what Arsenal and Chelsea are doing, I think if they backed him with another 50 to 100 million pounds in January, we might have won the title. No one will ever know. It's like saying I think Rangnick and Ten Hag would have worked a lot better than Ten Hag and Murta. But I think if they'd given him a 50 to 100 million pounds and he'd been able to go and get those players in early January before we played Arsenal, I think we could have had a real title chart. So, look, we'll never know about that, but I do. But the power that Ten Hag has at the moment is really, really encouraging. And it might be a different angle for you to look at it, because it certainly was for me today when I was thinking, we're so wrapped up in what we're doing on the pitch because that's the priority, and it's so clear that these players are under the spell of Ten Hag and nobody can... I mean, imagine if a United player... You know what I love about United as well? Last season, loads of people, family members, players, WhatsApping journalists, sources from the dressing room, close sources from the dressing room are saying this about Rangnick and this about Ronaldo. It was all coming from players one way or another. Imagine if there was a story tomorrow. A source in the dressing room has said that Ten Hag is a bit strict on people and had a big fallout with a player this week. Ten Hag would find out who that was. They wouldn't play again and they'd be gone, and you know it. It would be... They wouldn't dare do that now. Whereas a year ago, for the last 5 years, it's happened a lot. The power that Ten Hag has in that football club is to be admired. But he also has it with the board. Football boards are weak. They act like they're in control, but they're not in control. Sir Alex Ferguson was very good at this. The board isn't in control. They appoint and they sack. But if a manager's powerful and doing well, the board becomes irrelevant. You can't sack a manager when he's loved by the fans and loved by the players. We just haven't seen this for 10 years. Hi Mark, have to say I'm really impressed with Wout's first touch. Silky smooth, needs mentioning more, says Dan. He was very impressive yesterday. I gave him man of the match, mate. So Mark, if Arsenal get 100 points and win the FA Cup, League and Europa, will you admit that's better than your treble winning team, says Zane. Zane, I got sent a screenshot of something yesterday where somebody had done, I don't know, social post or a video saying, is this Arsenal team better than the Arsenal Invincible team? Well, I'll let you answer that, Zane. But for me, my answer to that is, tell me you're a complete and utter football prat without telling me you're a complete and utter football prat. If you're comparing this Arsenal team to the Arsenal Invincible team, or even thinking about it, you're a tool. You're a prat. You don't know anything about football. So I'll throw that question back to you, Zane. Your Arsenal team ain't coming anywhere near our treble team. I would live in your own backyard. Is this Arsenal team, if it gets 100 points, better than your Invincible team? Leave your arguments like that. Leave your recency bias in your own club, because ain't nobody coming near the treble winning side. And I'll tell you for free, how can Arsenal's team this season if it gets 100 points and win the FA Cup, be better than a treble winning team. You're missing something fundamental here. It's a big, massive, shiny thing with big handles on it, and it says European Cup. And on nowhere does it say Arsenal, and on nowhere will it say Arsenal this year. So I've answered your question for you there. Just got my tickets for the show in Dublin. Buzzing for the show. Is Ricky the Goat making the trip, says Jake. You will probably have some involvement in the show. So we're live on tour. I don't want to drift onto the tour, but you raise a good point. Remember, tomorrow morning on the 10 o'clock show, I'll be dropping the link in the live chat and in the video description. They'll be out for public consumption. 22nd of March, Dublin. Is it 24th, Manchester? And then the following week, London. So live United Stand shows. Lots of tickets have gone already because it's available for the members in the members section on the community tab. You can join the members club and get those tickets tonight if you want. There will be some tickets available tomorrow because the venues are quite big. I will be seeking ideas of what you want. Now, I will be there. If you want me to bring somebody with me, if you want it to be a little bit of a, sofa chat, or if you want it just to be me, interacting with the audience, we've got some good ideas of what we're going to do on the show. And we will be meeting up beforehand for a pint and stuff, and trying to mingle and stuff like that. So it's going to be a really good night. I can't wait for it, and hopefully it'll be the first of many. And is Zane going to show up at the London show? Well, Zane should be sponsoring the show, really. But you can buy the tickets from the venues direct now, says Ellie. Okay, I didn't know that. It's 21st of March for Dublin, says David. I know it's a Tuesday night, and they're all in the international break. Really looking forward to it. So I hope as many of you can get out there and enjoy it. Anyway, somebody just said, Rue says, could we see Iqbal against Reading? Really good question, and actually sort of feeds into the next thing I wanted to talk about. We hope, as we were just discussing there, that the club are actually going to back our manager and bring a player in the next few days. It would be really useful to have more option. What's going to happen at the shows, says Vicky? Well, it's going to be a live show. It's going to be on stage. It's going to be an arena. If you think about stand-up comedians, I'm not going to do that. I will stand up and interact with you. I don't want to give too much away because it's going to be a very unique experience. It's going to be interactive. It's going to be good. I'm really excited about it. I've never done it before. So, I spend each evening talking to thousands of people. It's going to be fantastic to be live, interacting. And there are going to be things before the show that we're going to ask people who are going to, give us a little bit of stuff before. Not drugs or anything. How did Rashford get comfortable on his left foot, says 5T. I mean, because he's putting the work in and he's being coached. Now, going back to that Iqbal question about whether he will start against Reading, one thing United are working on 100% over the next few days is loan exits. We've already seen Charlie Savage go to Forest Green, who've just got a new manager actually in Duncan Ferguson. There are expected to be more loan exits in the next few days. Now, one that might disappoint, it might please you, is that Anthony Elanga is not expected to go. I think he should go. I saw him coming on last night against Forest. He played a good assist to Bruno, had a smile on his face. I don't think I'd have a smile on my face if I was Anthony Elanga, really. I think he's lost a year of development by having to be... And look, I almost feel like giving him a hug. And in the sense, I feel sorry for him because this time last year, Cavani was injured, Martial had gone, I think Rashford was injured, we had Ronaldo. I don't know what happened. I think we had Ronaldo, Sancho, and Elanga as our fit front three. And Rangnick had to take somebody from the youth setup, and he took Elanga. So he basically had to step up. He was over promoted. Excuse me. And that sort of happened under Ten Hag. And I'm not criticising Rangnick, and I'm not criticising Ten Hag, but maybe Rangnick and Ten Hag think Elanga's good enough. Maybe they do. But the reality is, I don't think anybody thinks he is, because he's been over promoted. He needs to develop, and he's not developing, training with the first team and getting little cameos in the first team. There's no development really with Elanga in a year. Look at Garnacho over 2 or 3 months. I looked at Garnacho when he came on against Forest last night, and I could see the difference from when he scored the winner against Fulham. His body shape, his body shape and weight and physique may not have changed, but it's the way they hold themselves on the pitch, the confidence, the swagger, the movement. He's adapted to probably the same height, the same weight, everything's probably the same. But what he's done is, to the eye, is he's adapted, and Ten Hag was talking about this. Garnacho has adapted to first team football. In fact, Ten Hag said this last night. He fits the team as a senior player now, and he's right. You watch Garnacho now. There's still loads of development, but he doesn't look like a young player cameoing in the first team. He looks like a player that's developing in the first team but belongs in the first team squad. We've seen that change with Garnacho in 2 or 3 months. Alanga, to me, looks the same player, or actually probably worse than he was this time last year, which means the development is not working for him. Some people it does, some people it doesn't. So I think Alanga needs to go on loan. I'm not so sure he will. I think Palestri will stay. But Iqbal's probably a player that's going to go on loan. Maybe Charlie McNeil will go on loan. So I think we'll see a couple of people going out on loan. Hi Mark, a bit off topic, but when you are bringing back driving with Goldbridge, maybe better yet, start a series called Cycling with Goldbridge, says Mario G. As soon as January's out of the way, I've had a really busy January working on in front of the camera, behind the camera, some other issues going on, so it's just been impossible to sit and go and do stuff like that. Mental Health Diaries, thank you very much for your joining the members club. Hope you're doing well. Mark, United progress in the last 6 months is nothing but remarkable. I hope Ten Hag brings back the success Sir Alex did. Do you believe he will, says Breeden? Well, I feel like I've answered that question, because I'll sit here and say it to anybody. I think if Erik Ten Hag had been backed with 50 to 100 million pounds in January, and he'd been told that was going to happen in October, so he's highlighted the 2 or 3 players that he wants, I think we would have pushed Man City and Arsenal for the title. So I do think that Ten Hag will deliver success at Manchester United at the level we want. I think we'll be successful this season. Carabao Cup, it's a trophy. We haven't won any trophy for 5 years. But success for Manchester United is winning the Premier League. It's winning the Champions League. I think if Ten Hag is given realistic funds to compete with the Chelseas and the Man Cities of this world, I think he will deliver. Yes. Sakin says, I saw we're linked to Chiesa. Why do we need so many wingers? I saw that story as well, Sakin. It's complete and utter shite. I saw it. I wasn't going to mention it. It certainly wasn't going to be the thumbnail on the morning show. And shame on anybody who does do a show or an article on it, because it's complete and utter shite. I think it's Calcio Mercato saying that Man United are interested in Chiesa. We're not interested in Chiesa. I mean, I wish we had been interested in Chiesa. I really do like him, but we're not interested in Chiesa. He would cost somewhere between 50 and 100 million pounds, and we don't need another winger. So we aren't in for Chiesa. It's very good. Erik Ten Hag is directly involved with the youth players. The individual improvement he's made to first team players is night and day, says Ian Hart. But it's the whole club. It's the whole structure of the club. It's all about the structure. It's all about the players. I look at that Manchester United side and I think, it's all about the structure. And it is all about the structure, because so much of what Erik Ten Hag has done so far has worked. Most of his new signings have worked. He's developed players from the old squad like Dalot and Rashford, and a number of other players are better. And on top of that, the loanees are doing well. I remember the last couple of years under Solskjaer, players would go on loan, you'd completely forget about them, you'd go and look at what they're doing, and they wouldn't be doing much. Mejbri, Laird, Fernandes, even Galbraith, certainly Ahmad, they're all doing well on loan. Now, they're not all going to be Man United first team members, but sometimes United's youth success is selling one of those youth players for 5 million. So it's all going well. And it's all about the structure. It's all about the plan. It's all about, taking some of these players on tour last summer, looking at them and going, I don't think they need to be training with the first team and I can't give them game time. They need to be on loan in the Championship because that's the feeder for the Premier League. I don't want them going on loan to the Eredivisie or Spain because we want to be selling them to this market. And I think United have changed. I've never heard anybody say this, so I'm going to pat myself on the back here. United used to loan a lot of players, didn't they? And those players sometimes were loaned in England and sometimes they were loaned in Europe. Have you noticed that a lot of our players now are being loaned into the Championship? Now, one, I think that's total and utter common sense from the manager, because if you want these players to be a success for your club, the best place for them to be on loan is the Premier League or the Championship, because they're the closest thing to what Manchester United play. The second advantage to this is that the Premier League is far and beyond the most wealthy league in the world, and the Championship ain't bad either. So if you did end up selling one of these young players that are on loan, if you sell them as somebody that's done well in the Championship, you're going to get a lot more money than you're going to pick up from somebody in La Liga at the moment. So it's common sense on two levels. Gabriel Noel says, everyone is talking about Ahmad coming back and challenging Anthony on the right wing, but he's been playing the number 10 second striker role for Sunderland. When he comes back, I want him as the backup for Bruno, says Gabriel Noel. Look, I think, I intend to be on the USA tour in the summer, and therefore, obviously, I'll be watching the games, etc. I want Ahmad front and centre for that. There is no World Cup, there is no Euros. If you get on that tour this year, it'll be a good tour. Sometimes you can catch a bad tour because, let's be honest, the tour, when there's a Euros or a World Cup, you won't see a lot of the first team players because they won't go on tour. They'll just be coming back from holiday and they won't be fit. This will be a big tour. Everybody's going to be off in June and they'll all go on tour unless they're injured. So I want Ahmad on that tour with the rest of the first team, pushing and showing Ten Hag what he can do next season. Mark, I know this is off topic, but do you think Rashford's celebration is for Sancho and mental health? Appreciate all you do for the community, says Daniel. I don't know. I mean, you could manipulate it into anything you want as long as it's a positive message. It can be anything you want it to be. I sometimes watch a film and I hear a famous line and I'll go, that could mean anything. It's like when Al Pacino says in Heat, she had a huge ass. For me, that means she had a huge ass, but for some people it could mean something completely different. So interpret it however you want it to, as long as if it's a positive message. In a footballing sense, I said it in the summer, Rashford and a lot of those United players needed to get themselves down IKEA, buy a load of mirrors and put them up in their house, because then they'll see that the person that can change all the blame. Instead of shifting the blame, which that team did last year, look in the mirror. Only you yourself can change your path, and maybe that's what Rashford's talking about. It's about concentration and focus. Only you in your head can make the difference, and it's true. I like having Garnacho and Palestri as a different type of winger option. Do you think Mainu could be a similar option to Bruno at Cam? So Stephen, the thing about Mainu is you've got to look at Garnacho, haven't you, and say that Garnacho's progression has been good but steady over 3 or 4 months. Mainu has to be given that opportunity as well. What I like about Palestri, and it's probably one of my moments of the season for the younger players, was when he got that ball and whipped that cross in quick. We don't have anybody who does that. I find United really frustrating. Even our fullbacks very rarely whip a first-time cross in. As a striker, it's gold dust. When a player whips a cross in early and the defenders aren't set and you can attack the ball, it's brilliant. And we don't. How many times does a Man United player take a touch, look up and then whip a cross in? As a defender, you've seen them take a touch, you've seen them look up, you've had time to have a look at what's around you and then attack the ball. If that same player doesn't take a touch, doesn't look up and whips a cross in, you haven't got time to set yourself and look where a player is. You've just got to hope that that ball's in the area for you to attack it. So I love the fact that Palestri whipped a quick cross in, because we don't do it enough. And when you've got a striker like Weghorst, who is a penalty box striker, you've got to put them in quick. So I like that. Would have been interesting to see James Garner working alongside Ten Hag, and Casemiro would have been interesting to see his development, says John. My understanding with James Garner, just very, very quickly, is that some people say that Ten Hag walked into the club and said, sell him. Well, that makes absolutely no sense, because Brandon Williams is still here. Palestri is still here. There are lots of players that he could have said, sell them, but has given them time to see what they're all about. Garner had more potential than a lot of players that have been given time, and yet he was injured on the tour, and then he was sold to Everton. I was always told what happened with Garner is United had to sell somebody, and they'd only sold Pereira, and they needed to sell another player. Nobody would. I think Brandon Williams was injured at the time. Wan-Bissaka, there was no interest. They needed to raise some money, and Garner was the only one that United could get money for at that time. That they, and Ten Hag was like, well, he's a development player. He's not ready for me now. I'm not going to use him anyway. I probably would have loaned him. So they did it. Have you seen updates on Mason having the case dropped, says David Page? I haven't heard anything like that, and I really wish you wouldn't bring shit like that into the chat, because it just is completely unfair on absolutely everybody, and more importantly, the victim and everybody else involved in this. I just wish people wouldn't come in with irresponsible shit comments like that. I think it's bang out of order. There'll be people all around the world who'll get hopes up thinking he might be back playing for United. There'll be people who don't want him anywhere near a United shirt ever again. Just think before you put stuff like that in there. It's a really sensitive topic, and it's not one I'm going to address other than why bring it in. Do you consider next season's Chelsea squad with Nkunku, Mudryk, Madueke and potentially Caicedo, Rice, Enzo Fernandez as a threat to United? I think Chelsea, Pseudo, are a club that I said 4 or 5 months ago are probably the most exciting project over the next 18 months. Don't know whether it will be successful, but they've got some good players. What time are we expecting tickets to release tomorrow, and what website, says Lewis Duxon? Well, 10 a.m. tomorrow. I'll be putting the link in the video description and on the live chat, so get ready for that. Of course, if you're a member, you can get them now on the community tab. I honestly think if Poch was in charge, the Glazers wouldn't sell. Eric Ten Hag isn't a yes man, and I think he's influenced the sale of Manchester United. What are your thoughts, Rory? I don't know. I think the fact that they've got to spend $2 billion on a new stadium and they don't want to do that, they would just want to keep taking $50 million out in dividends a year, is probably a bigger factor than what the manager's doing. If we're absolutely honest, the Glazers have backed themselves into a corner. They've milked the cow, and now there's no milk left, and they know to make that cow produce milk again, they've got to spend a lot of money on it, and they don't want to. Simple as that. Hi Mark, just a shout out to Steve McLaren. He did a great job 20 years ago and he's doing the same now, says Ian Nichols. Yeah, I'm very happy with... I never had a problem with McLaren coming back anyway. He was back there as the assistant coach back in 99, wasn't he? He was the assistant coach then. He just came in that season. But apart from the Wally with the Brolly as the England coach, didn't really work out. But I think as an assistant coach, he's very good. He's very good. I know aside from those who grew up and practiced, City only got former United and former other teams. Okay, no, okay. One thing I really do want to bring in, make sure you smash a like on the video, by the way, and do subscribe. This is fantastic. It's brilliant. So some of you might have seen it today. I was really surprised when I saw it. I knew Newcastle would be there, and I think Newcastle are number 1. But Manchester United are 3rd this season for... the most clean sheets across Europe. Across the whole of Europe, we're 3rd. I think Newcastle are number 1. And another thing which has got nothing to do with this season, David De Gea is only 3 clean sheets away from equaling Peter Schmeichel's record. So that's pretty amazing, isn't it? It's pretty amazing, that is. That I've said it quite a few times that if you think back to Brighton and Brentford and that terrible start to the season where we lost 2 games in a row, those games really, I think we went and beat Southampton, Liverpool and Leicester, not in that order. And I remember those games against Southampton and Leicester, and I think we won them both 1-0. And it was definitely built on that back 5 of De Gea, Dalot, Varane, Martinez and Malacia. I think a lot of our success this season has been built from the back. When you think about this season, we're not playing Ten Hag ball yet. We're not. I remember Ben Foster being on the show on a Monday morning, probably back in September, and he said, you're not going to start playing the way Ten Hag wants you to play for about 18 months. It just won't happen that quick. And it hasn't. Last night was good. We had a lot of possession last night. First half against Arsenal, we did a 50-50 with them. But we're not 70% possession in many games. And that's what Ten Hag wants. Ten Hag ball is domination of the ball, high line, high press, high chance creation. We're not at that stage yet. Which shows you the strings to Ten Hag's bow, that he's actually rebuilt this season from a terrible start on a strong defence. I think the fundamental thing of United this season is that we're hard to score against. I think the defence has been the key. Casemiro's been ridiculously good. The back 5's been good. And then you've got people like Martial and Rashford especially and Bruno who've just chipped in with goals and moments, I suppose. Not to the extent that we're a moments team, but the defence has been the platform without a doubt. And it's very impressive that we're 3rd across Europe for the most clean sheets. Fantastic. And apparently David De Gea is the problem. I mean, he's not the problem, is he? You can talk about ball-playing goalkeepers. You definitely can, but you cannot say that the goalkeeper's the problem when we're over-exceeding and we've got the third most clean sheets. And people will say, well, that's not because of De Gea. Okay, it's not the goal. It's nothing to do with the goalkeeper, who is the last line of defence, that we're getting loads of clean sheets. Look, we conceded a lot last season with De Gea. It's the whole unit. I've played the game. I'm sure you've played the game. When you've got a strong defence, when you look at Arsenal in the early 90s, their defence was a back five. Seaman, Adams, was it Keown, Dixon, Winterburn. The best defence. Look at Chelsea in the 04-05 season. When you're getting look at Newcastle right now. It is never because you've got two world-class centre-backs. It is never because you've got a world-class goalkeeper. The best defences. Look at AC Milan. Baresi, Costa Curta, Maldini. I forget who was at right back. But, it's always about the back five. When you've got a defence that's achieving, anybody who knows anything about football will say, it's never about one or two members of the back five. It's always about the defensive unit. And the difference is between last year and this year is it's a defensive unit that trusts and knows each other. You see the communication. You see the high fives. And Ten Hag has built this season on a defence that we don't talk about. I think it'd be quite surprising to some people that we've had, we're third in Europe for most clean sheets, because it doesn't feel like we're a defensive side. Because I don't think we are a defensive side, but we are a side that's hard to score against. And we're not like Newcastle. Newcastle's reputation, quite rightly, is they're bloody hard to score against, and the games can be quite tight with them. We score goals, but we're bloody hard to score against. In Holland, we are surprised that Erik ten Hag, his robotic Dutch bluntness has been received well by the fans, but anything is better than Van Gaal's madness, says Vincent. I think when Ten Hag first came in, I did worry about a few of his press conferences because he answered questions so bluntly, like you say. And I sensed that the journalists didn't like it, and there was a bit of kickback, especially on the tour, because he doesn't like doing press conferences. Like the Arsenal game, he didn't do a press conference. It was an embargoed bit from the midweek Palace game. But what's better? United winning loads of games and Ten Hag not really answering questions as deep as a manager who sits there after another loss and starts telling you War and Peace. The balance, it just works at the moment. Lewis Dixon, welcome to the members club. Thank you very much for that. So no, I think Ten Hag is. The fans love Ten Hag. I mean, I remember it would have been around this time last year that the hype started for Ten Hag, didn't it? It felt like it was more March, February time, wasn't it? But I felt like every show was, don't you bloody dare appoint Pochettino. Don't listen to Neville and the rest of them. Get Ten Hag. And it felt like the only people that wanted Ten Hag was the fans. There was nobody in the media talking about Ten Hag. I don't remember one person in the media championing Ten Hag. No journalists, no ex-players. They all wanted Poch. And we wanted Ten Hag. And the club chose Ten Hag. Fair play, they did. And the reason they chose him wasn't because of the fans. It was because in his interview, he just bloody blew them away. They couldn't believe it. Which you can understand when you see how obsessive he is. But I did worry about Ten Hag because I thought, well, none of these journalists really wanted him. And that could be a dangerous thing because they don't know who you are either. They're not your friend. You haven't played in the Premier League. You haven't managed in the Premier League. They didn't want you anyway. I'm not saying they didn't like him, but it was a bit like, you sort of sensed it after the Brighton and Brentford game, didn't you? You sensed they were ready, sharpening the knives to say, this is why you shouldn't bring in a manager from the Eredivisie. This is the Premier League. And yet he's turned them all around. I read a lot of stuff and I don't really detect that uncertainty now. I think they know he's the real deal. I'm not saying you should have to earn respect. I think that Pochettino wouldn't have had to earn the respect that Ten Hag did. And I think there was a bit of ignorance around Ten Hag. But he has earned their respect now. And he's doing a fantastic. I mean, the job he's doing it's unbelievable, isn't it? It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I don't know what I expected, but it's been brilliant, absolutely superb. Barca went for him, tried to move for him before Xavi, says Corey. I've said this so many times. I've said it so many times. This is why I wanted us to get Ten Hag. I remember talking back in March. I was bloody moaning like a prat, going, we've got to get Ten Hag, we've got to get Ten Hag. And the chat would be going, we get it, you want Ten Hag. And I'd go, No, but the thing is, if Pep leaves Man City, they'll interview him. He'll probably get the job. If Klopp leaves Liverpool, they'd interview him. You know, if Chelsea need a manager, they might go for him. We've got to get him while we get him now. I knew, like many other people, I didn't know he was going to be a success. I'm not a bloody prophet. But I did know he was the next one to go for. Over the last few years, we've seen Klopp, we didn't get him. We've seen Nagelsmann, we didn't get him. Ten Hag was the next hipster manager. You know, he was. Whether people like that word or not, he was the next hipster manager. He was the one that, you know, Chelsea did it with Porto and Mourinho all those years ago. And United always missed the boat. You know, we never got Ancelotti. We never got Mourinho when we should have done. We didn't get Klopp. We certainly didn't get Pep. And I think with Ten Hag, we went and got the Klopp. We went and got the Pep. We went and got the Nagelsmann. You know, we got the manager who was the hipster manager of the time. Now, I'm not saying he's as good as Pep or he's as good as Klopp. That's ridiculous. All I'm saying is we went and got the manager that I think a lot of other big clubs would have gone for if they needed a manager. And it fell into our lap and we did it. We did it. And I'm very, very happy with it. Very, very happy. His Ajax team was special until the big boys swooped, says Was His Face. Mark, have you heard the rumour that Ollie is interested in the Everton job, but will only take the Everton job if they buy Maguire and McTominay, says David. Yeah, I have seen the tweet, and it's from a fake tweet, because it's Centre Devils, isn't it? And it's a fake Centre Devils account. They put another one out today, actually. It's a fake... It's someone having a bit of banter. They put another one out today, a fake quote from Scott McTominay said that... since Casemiro's come here, I've put my arm round him, I've shown him around, and he's learnt a lot about how to play for Man United. It's a fake quote, and it's a fake one about Solskjaer. Everton aren't going to give Solskjaer a job, and they shouldn't do, you know, and they're not going to. Do you think we will get new owners well before summer? Separate topic, Show Speed is being signed by Barcelona. How much did you sell him for your team? Is he being signed by Barcelona? Sagar? Interesting. I don't know. I don't operate in that world. I operate in a real world. Hi Mark, big thanks for the content and community. Helps me a lot. Hope you guys come on tour to South Africa. You know what, Joshua? I think if we were doing a tour in South Africa, we'd sell it out. So many people have been asking about it. And yeah, definitely want to do it. Lars, welcome to the members club. Thank you very much. I mentioned this morning about the tour as well. I had the numbers come through this morning, how many tickets have gone for each venue. And it's amazing the support we've had so far. I hope we can sell them all out when it goes live tomorrow. But Dublin, Manchester and London. London, you're in third place at the moment. Manchester's in second place, not far behind in second place. And Dublin at the moment is winning. There we go. What does that say? It doesn't say anything. It just says Dublin sold the most at the moment. But yeah, tomorrow morning I'll have them. We'll have the link for you, but you can get hold of them. There are links out there apparently, and if you're a member, you can get it on the community tab. Fantastic venues as well. Fantastic venues. The Dublin one is brilliant, and so is the Manchester and the London one. Really nice. The one in London at Clapham Junction, it's like a really, you know, fantastic arena. I can't wait. The place where most United are from is in third, says Luke, says Bradford. Well, technically, most Man United fans in the UK probably do live in London, because it's got a massive population, but I don't know about that. I don't know. I don't really care. It doesn't really matter where you are. Do you think Ollie would come back to the Premier League, says Harry? Don't actually care, if I'm honest with you. Solskjaer's status as a Man United legend is untarnished. What he does with his career, I wish him all the best. Appreciate the gold, Mr. Goldbridge. Keep the content flowing. I wish I could make it to the tour, says Rafa. Thank you very much. I just want to make sure, before we get into your questions, was there anything else I wanted to talk about that I have missed? Oh, there was two things, actually. First of all, DiMarzio used to be absolutely brilliant. Josh Dude is brilliant. In fact, he's more than that. He's a legend. He's a legend of the chat tonight, because Josh Dude has just gifted 20 United Stand memberships. You're a legend, mate. Thank you very much. DiMarzio was saying tonight that obviously DiMarzio is an Italian-based journalist, and he was talking about Osimhen, and he said that a deal for Osimhen is going to set you back £120 million. And even if United bid £120 million for Osimhen, there will be other clubs who are bidding £120 million for him. So I like Osimhen, but it's an irrelevant thing. As I said, people at the start of the week were saying United won't be going for Osimhen because he's too expensive. I mean, it's like... It's like saying, I won't get a PS5 for Christmas. It's January. God knows what situation you're going to be in when you might want a PS5 in November for December. How United can say we're not going to buy Osman in January when we won't even have the same owners in the summer. You know, it's expensive though. I mean, and I will say this. The reason I bring it up is because Napoli wanted 90 million. Genuinely, Napoli wanted 90 million for Koulibaly when we bought Harry Maguire for 80. Did we pay 80 million or 85? So we paid 80 million pound for Harry Maguire 4 years ago. Napoli wanted 90 for Koulibaly 4 years ago. So 4 years later, they'll definitely want north of 100 million for Osman. They will, 100%. And they're very stubborn, Napoli. So United might not want to spend that amount of money. Putting a value on a player is very difficult. Goal scorers always come at a high price, unless you do what happened with Haaland, where you put a release clause in first. I don't know whether Osman's worth 100 million quid, but if you're paying 85 million euros for Anthony, I think over 100 million euros for Osman is probably worth it. The most important thing, though, is not to get tangled up on whether a player is worth 100 million or not. It's to speak to your manager and say, what striker do you want in the summer? And if he comes back to you and says, I want Osman because look at what I've built over the last year. I want to take us to the next level. And this lad I've scouted extensively is exactly the striker I want to take us to the next level. Well, I write the cheque. That'll do me. He wants that strike. And that's the most important thing. It's not about whether we think Osman's worth it. It's not about whether we thought Gakpo was worth it. It's what Ten Hag wants. He's earned that right. That's the mindset we need to get into. Now, Ten Hag might say, I do like Osman, but I wouldn't spend over £100 million on him. Actually, go and get me Sesko for 70 because it's cheaper and I can do the same sort of thing in a different way that I would have done with Osman. So it comes down to what the manager wants. Mark, the Manchester tour is the same night as Barcelona. No, it's not, Rory. Rory, are you just a troublemaker or are you thick? I genuinely ask in a polite way because we're playing Barcelona in February. We're doing our tours in the international break in March. How the hell are Man United playing in Barcelona? That's a very long first leg if that's going to happen. Christian Panucci was the right back. I nearly said Panucci, Thomas. I wish I had. I wish I'd committed. I normally do. Who was the goalkeeper is the one that pisses me off because I should know that goalkeeper. Who was the goalkeeper who played behind Baresi, Costa Curta and Maldini? And why do I not know it? I keep thinking of Dildo, the Brazilian goalkeeper. And I know it's not him because that was latter years. Why do I not know the AC Milan goalkeeper? I'm going to kick myself. I can think of loads of goalkeepers who are Italian. What was his name? Was it Perugia? I can't think of loads. What was the name? Now all I can think about is Walter Zenga. What was the one who played for Juventus? It wasn't Perugia. That's a bloody team. I've had a brain blank, and I'm going to go mad when I know who the AC Milan one was. It wasn't Dida. Peruzzi, that's it, not Perugia. It wasn't Buffon at AC Milan. It was Sebastian Rossi. Well, that's probably why I don't remember him. I don't really remember him. Yeah. It was Rossi. I would never have got that then, to be fair. I don't know why I wouldn't know that one. I mean, I know who it is, but I never would have got it, I'll be honest. It wasn't Dean Henderson. No. Peruzzi at Juventus, I liked him. I did like him. Buffon wasn't at AC Milan. Oh, and just a little story. Have you heard what Southgate's come out and said about Rashford? Oh, God. I mean, I don't like to think about Southgate too much because he just frustrates me. But basically, Rashford's obviously on fire. And he'd obviously been asked the question about, could the World Cup have been different if he'd actually played Rashford? And he tried to make out that, well, people are judging Rashford on his form now, not in the World Cup. And I just thought, you are really a major rubbish manager. Rashford was in form in the World Cup. Rashford had played in the group stage and scored goals. Rashford was in form in the World Cup. He scored that free kick. Rashford was in form in the World Cup. And you, in a game against France, where we should have gone to the World Cup final, you brought Raheem Sterling on, who wasn't in form in the World Cup and had spent the week in London because he'd been burgled. You brought him on before you brought Rashford on in a World Cup quarter-final against France. And now you're trying to justify that, well, Rashford's only started playing since before the World Cup. You got it wrong, mate. You shouldn't even be the manager. You got it wrong. Own it. Own it. Deflector. Rashford was playing well in that World Cup and he just didn't use him. But look, not that I'm... not that I want to moan about it, but, you know. He'd been in... yeah, and also, Stephen Ross, he's right, he'd been playing well for Man United before the World Cup as well. He was playing well before the World Cup. He was playing well in the World Cup, and he's played even better after the World Cup. You just didn't pick him because you're a crap manager. Own it. Own it. Have you ever been to Texas, says Will? No. I've been to Tesco. Rashford was playing well before the World Cup. You're absolutely correct. Anyway, I digress. We don't want to go back that way, do we? Mount wasn't very good as well either. Yeah. Hi, Mark. Are you the one dealing with the CVs for the United Stand Studios, says Connor? So, yeah, look, I mentioned it this morning. The email address is that'sfootballmedia@gmail.com. And we've had a few people sending stuff in that's a complete waste of time. You'll get a nice reply, but, you know, I want to present, and I live in New Zealand, is it's a Manchester-based studio. We are building the channel out, and we want to build it out with the people who care about the channel. So we've had loads of people sending stuff in, designers, website builders, social media experts, presenters, some people in the industry, some people coming out of uni who can work in Manchester. So if you're interested in that and you think you've got something to offer, send us your CV. That's footballmedia@gmail.com. You might be presenting on TalkSport and think, you know what, I want to come and work for the United Stand. You might be coming out of uni and you're in Manchester. I want to come work for the United Stand. So there's not really... There are parameters to it because we can't have you working from New Zealand, and we can't, we're not looking to, we're not going to take somebody who's got absolutely no, career path in this industry. But, I can't define what that career path could be because, I could apply to present something and I used to work in a bank. So, but look, we've been overwhelmed by the amount of people who really love the community and want to get involved. So that's footballmedia@gmail.com. Send us your CV and we'll certainly take a look at it. In fact, we're sort of trying to invite a few people in the next few weeks anyway, just to have a chat with them. So yeah, it's been a worthwhile exercise. We used to get people to send videos in, but we've sort of moved past that now because you get loads of brilliant people sending videos in, but they live in New Jersey or India or something like that, and it's sort of not what we're doing at the moment. So we are trying to build this United Stand thing out in Manchester. So yeah, fantastic. And I can only say thank you to everybody. I've been overwhelmed by just how much people love the community because I love it, and I can't wait for the tour. I would urge people to get to one of the venues if you can. Because it's going to be fantastic to just be out doing something different. I mean, I can envisage what it's going to be like in my head because it's not going to be, sat in a room talking to a live chat. It's going to be actually out there and, hopefully meeting a few people as well would be great. So those tickets are out tomorrow. But like I say, if you're a member, they're on the community tab already. And you know what? There's a lot of hate and toxicity out there. But I've come to learn this over the years that, you get these people going, who'd want to go and watch that? Who watches this? Who watches that? Well, a lot of people do. And you don't like it, and that's up to you, and that's absolutely fine. Obviously, you live in a sad place where, it really winds you up that something you don't like, other people do like. But some people get dragged down by negativity and hate. And, my principle of the last 2 years, and I want to thank all you lot for it, has always been this. There's people out there that don't like you, and there's people out there that irrationally have hate for you. I get it. It's not nice to think of that, but I get it. But the reason we are where we are is because way more nice people love and enjoy what you do. And that's why we are where we are. As a community, it's because loads of people love and enjoy and are positive about what we do. So, I'll take those haters every day of the week because the majority get it, enjoy it, watch it, and love it. And that's positivity, isn't it? So thank you, everybody. I think I'm going to finish there on that bombshell. I'm going to start there. As I said, if you want to send your CVs in and you think you've got something to offer, let us know. And if you want to get your tickets. Rory says, is Ben Foster going to be on the tour? Look, there might be some special guests, but it's United Stand's first ever live shows. If that's not incentive to get your ass down there and you need special guests, I mean, what do you want me to do? Bring the bloody guy who does Wakey Wakey or the Wealdstone Raider? It's United Stand on tour. It's going to be great. And we've picked 3 brilliant locations to start off with as well: London, Manchester, and Dublin. And there'll be plenty more. I'm not being elitist there, but there's reasons why we picked those. There was 2 I really wanted to do, but we've had to postpone. In fact, my favourite one, I'm not going to say what my favourite one is. Thanks everyone. We're back in the morning. That link will be out in the morning, so make sure you're ready for that. Sheriff, thanks very much for your super chat. Take care. Really enjoyed the show tonight, and I think the best thing to say is that the power is with Ten Hag. It's not just with the players, it's with the board. He's in control of that football club at the moment, and that makes him very, very powerful. There will be a cameo from the Pineapple Guy, yeah. He's got a little sketch ready. Take care, everyone. Speak to you in a bit.